markets and the Trump administration's economic policies. Let's bring in Gary Cohn, vice chair of IBM. He served as director of the National Economic Council during the first Trump administration and as president of Goldman Sachs prior to that. Gary, it is great to see you.
I think we should clap him in.
You hear the crowd? I'm ready to go home. I'm done.
What do you make of all of this?
Well, first of all, I would not overreact to all this. Mm-hmm. If we've learned one thing over the Trump administration, this is a few hours. The world could be completely different a week from now. So I understand everyone reacting to what we've seen today, and I understand that we're all market-driven. But this could change. It could change overnight. It could change next week. And in the middle of this, I think we all missed that the president announced a trade deal with China, which is probably pretty bullish for the markets as well. So it's not like the White House is sitting there only worried about the Elon Musk situation. They're driving business forward, and they're trying to deliver on their economic promises.
Couple things. Gary could be anywhere right now. I'm sure his phone is blowing up. He chose to be with us. He committed to this a couple months ago. He's here with us now. Gary's an absolute gentleman, number one. Number two, I ask you, in terms of tax, you sat in that seat for a long time. Mel made the point. I guess both, you said it to me earlier, they both want the same thing. They're just getting at it in a different way. So sort of speak to that.
Exactly. So look, let's take a step back and take the temperature down for a minute. It is an absolute imperative that we roll over or continue the Trump tax cuts that were put in place in 2017. The implications of not rolling them back and going back to where we were in 2017, we haven't talked about that. But the negative impact on the economy and the markets would be close to catastrophic. Mm-hmm. I don't think anyone's prepared for that. None of you have talked about it. No one is talking about not rolling over the Trump tax cuts. What's in there for businesses on the accelerated depreciation, on the R&D, making interest deductions, making these things permanent, this is really important for the economy. So I don't really think Congress has a choice. And then you can throw in border security and other things in the bill. I think the vast majority of us want a secure border. So these things are going to happen. How we get there, I don't know. As you said, I was part of it when they did it, eight years ago. It's never clean. It's messy getting legislation done, and it's a lot of compromises. But at the end of the day, we'll get to the compromises to continue the Trump tax cuts and roll them forward. When you look at the deficit piece of the equation, which is what the argument's about today, the deficit in the bill is coming from rolling over the tax cuts. That's what's driving the deficit. It's not additional spending. Yes, there's some spending in there for the border, but the driver of the deficit is the tax cuts. And that's because this arcane way that we score things in the United States. We send it to the Congressional Budget Office. They score it. They statically score it. They say no matter what you do in the tax bill, it has no effect on the economy. Whether you increase taxes, you decrease taxes, you end taxes, you take them to 100%, it will have no economic effect. We know that's wrong. The static scoring came up with this $2.4 trillion loss over 10 years. If you go back to where we were in 2017, our tax bill statically scored at a huge loss. Revenue is coming in dramatically higher than they would have budgeted revenue to come in because we created economic growth. I think this bill continues to create economic growth by leaving tax rates where they are and leaving corporates involved in this. So I think you have to understand that, like, Elon's talking about the deficit, which, by the way, is a big problem. But the tax bill being rolled over is equally as important, and that's what's causing the deficit. So I think we've got to separate the deficit issue and spending because, look, we decided as a country to spend a lot of money during COVID, and I don't think anyone has a problem with that. Unfortunately, when COVID ended, we never went back to pre-COVID spending levels. We continued on that trajectory. Conflating the tax bill and the COVID spending, they're two different items, and I think we have to look at them separately.
So, first of all, thank you so much for being on. Do you think it got harder or easier? Because the last few days, it seemed like there was some cracks in the ability to get this deal done. Where do you think we stand now?
Look, we're going to get the deal done. The question is what's in the bill, okay? And look, I don't want to go down the crazy path of reconciliation, but they're using reconciliation, which means they need a simple majority in the Senate. But, here's the but, the Senate and the House have to agree on the exact same piece of legislation. And that's where the issue is going to come. You know, the House put in there an increased cap on SALT deductions, state and local tax deductions. The Senate doesn't necessarily like that. I don't think that's going to end up where the House put in. There's going to be a compromise. There's going to be lots of compromises in this bill. And I think right now, in week one of the Senate legislative process, everyone's asking for their ultimate asks, and there's going to be compromise, and you're going to negotiate down from the starting point. And that's what we're watching the sausage being made in some respects.